Brands Hatch is quintessentially British. It's a tight, twisty circuit with challenge aplenty, and it was opened all the way back in 1951. And well, it's fair to say this circuit has seen it all, from Formula One all the way up to the modern British GT series. Well, and after tonight, we can have the WSRL IndyCar series. Welcome to Britain. Welcome to round 4 of the WSRL IndyCar series. My name is Sebastian. Bosher-Williams in the virtual production booth tonight. We have Dustin, Ollis, and well, right alongside me, my WSRL partner in crime, Mike Braun. Mike, welcome along. We've come to a really tricky circuit, as I alluded to earlier. Certainly different to 1 week ago when the drivers were at a fairly more standard IndyCar circuit of Watkins Glen. It's really going to provide a challenge for our drivers tonight.
No, absolutely. This track is going to be real tight on these guys. It is a single groove type track, so not a lot of hard braking moments to get by. There are a couple, but you and I are used to calling those fendered cars, and this is our chance to get them open wheel cars out there. So this is going to be a good, entertaining race for us. I've done a couple of these so far this season, and I think this is your first one with us. So welcome along to the Indy team, Seb, and this should be an interesting qualifying session here, my friend.
It certainly will be. Yeah, new to the IndyCar series, as I am, but really looking forward to seeing. You said open wheel cars. They're basically open wheel cars, but it's starting to go away, of course, with the introduction of the aero screen. Been very popular though with the drivers, and well, in real life IndyCar, we've seen the aero screen really providing a lot of driver protection. Currently have a look at Jake Luther, a name that will be familiar to both of us. Driver in the WSRL multi-class series as well, as he heads through Dingleberry up towards the final corner. These cars are so quick, Mike, a little bit quicker than I think necessarily the Brands Hatch circuit can contain. Laps going to go by very quickly tonight, and I get a sense that it's going to be all about the tyre warm-up phase and really managing the tyres through turn 1. Very wide from Jake Luther, picking up a whole load of understeer already on his opening lap.
Yeah, it's going to be definitely a tire management track. It's so easy to overpush these tires coming, especially through turns 1, and then also the 5, 6, and 7, 8 section. It's such a hard right-hand turn section where you're just going through and really just pushing the limits of the tires, and it is definitely going to be one to watch for the tire fall off on these guys. But these guys are required to run the red tires and the black tires, so they are going to have to run both different tires in the session to be able to qualify for the race. So it's just like in F1 where you have to run a different set of tires. That we do the same thing here in the WSRL Indy League.
Yeah, very true to the real-life IndyCar specifications. Going to be an amazing race to watch tonight. Hotham sets to goes to the fastest time on the leaderboard, although Chad Rogers bets him rather quickly. 1:08.98 goes Chad. Chad then heads back to the pits, qualifying done and dusted then for the number 4 car. Luther goes into 3rd place for 14 hundredths of a second behind Hotham. Aubrey Condell, Mike, is out on the primary tyres rather than the red-walled alternates, as we see Christian Gritzko, well, a driver who we know is very, very quick when it comes to GT racing. When it comes to open-wheel racing, 6/10 of a second quicker than Chad Rogers. So Gritzko really setting the pace early doors. But a little bit surprised at Condell and Long. Oh, that's a big snap there. That's Ricardo Serrano going around at the final corner, Clark curve. Huge moment there for the 64 car. I will get my point across. 3 drivers out on the primaries, clearly Mike going for a different strategy at the start of the race.
Yeah, definitely. That's the thing. When you qualify on the tires, you have to start with those tires as well. So they are going to go with a different strategy, playing the long game a little bit better, I'm sure. So we'll have to see. But as we're coming around right now with Aubrey Condell, you can see him coming around into that hard braking zone right now, into that turn 2 area, the Druid section. And that's going to be a good passing point for those guys. They're going to have to try to get inside and get hard under the braking. They've got a lot of runoff on that area there. Then coming up into the South Bank area in turn 4. It's a good uphill section, uphill long straightaway. This is going to be where the push to pass is really going to come into play, is down this long straightaway, down the hill, hit that push to pass, and maybe get on the inside coming into Hawthorne Bend into turn number 5. So I think that's going to be the good key points on the track. This is going to probably be a good single line section where they're coming through in about turn 6, 7, and 8. You might make a good run. You might see somebody try to make an inside dive through here as under braking a bit. But the other half of the track, I think, is really we're going to see most of the action. And then one other key point that I think that I've noticed during the practice session is the pit entry. Pit entry has a jump almost in it. The asphalt has little bumps in it. The whole track has some bumps in it, but the pit lane definitely has a little bump in it. And if you get in there and try to hit on the brakes too hard, you're going to come across that pit limit line, and you might get caught speeding coming into pits.
Really difficult pit entry here at Brands Hatch. You're right to mention that, Mike. Really gonna, I think, be a little bit of a contentious issue when the drivers inevitably make their pit stop. Augustine Castro up into 2nd place. Good first lap from Castro. He'll be wanting to see if he can improve on his 2nd attempt. As you see, Carsten Keen, one of the drivers to not set a lap time, well, scrap that, heads up into 3rd spot. Gritzko, then your pole sitter, heading out on to the track. So clearly, after coming into the pits, Mike, tyres, it certainly looks like the alternates are good for 1 lap only in qualifying. Kundal proving that the primaries, the Blackwall tyres, can go for 1 or more laps. Well, I say that, Gritzko, quicker lap time, 1 minute 8.319. So Christian Gritzko, very, very quick in this session so far. 0.2 of a second then separates Gritzko from Castro. Kunin, the number 9th place, number 86. Currently got Flack and Kundal ahead of him. Both will be starting on the primary tyres, and that could be a real big issue for Kunin there. If he can't get past Flack and Kundal, he certainly has the advantage when it comes to tyre strategy, maybe in a few laps into the race. But with qualifying starting to come to a close, just over 3 minutes to go, Mike, why don't you take us through your current points for this championship?
Yeah, right now we've got our points leader is Ricardo Serrano. He was your winner at Indy. He was just a commanding win that he had there at the Indy track. In the 2nd spot is Justin Barrera, your winner from last week. Just 6 points behind. Then you got Bobby Flack in the 3rd spot. Bobby hasn't won a race yet, but he's been in that points race every time. I think he finished 2nd at Indy, and he's been up front in so many of these races. Then you got Brian Hotham running in the 4th spot, just 2 points behind Flack. Then you got Dave Steveson in the 5th spot, Neil Alexander in 6th, Aubrey Kundal in the 7th spot. He was your week 1 winner. Then you got Joshua Benjamin running in the 8th spot, Jake Luther in 9th, Barry Cochran in the 10th spot, Clay Harris in 11th, Matthew Dweeter in 12th, Kevin Dixon in the 13th spot, Carson Keen in 14th, Christian Gritzko in the 15th spot. In 16th is Galvin Ellsworth, and Brian Long in the 17th spot, and in the 18th spot, Eric Starpoltney. Oh, got more coming down there. Here we go. In the 19th spot, Mike Weir, Q-Nid in the 20th spot, Augustine Castro in 21, Will Love in 22, Emma Carter in 23rd, Brett Accord in 24th, John Salazzo in the 25th spot, Colin Arnold in 26th, and then we've got 3 guys with 0 points, Will Coffey, Marshall Stanley, and Chad Rogers, all with 0 points.
Thank you very much, Mike. So a good overview then of how the championship stands going into round 4. Riding on board with Ricardo Serrano, your championship leader, made a mistake on his opening qualifying lap, and I spot a little bit of a primary tyre on the side of the 64 car. So clearly that's the strategy that Ricardo is choosing through the quick corner of turn 3, Graham Hill Bend, immediately into Surtees corner. Be careful on the throttle on the exit down through Pilgrim's Drop, as it's known, towards turn 5, Hawthorne's Bend. Lap is developing fairly nicely for Riccardo Serrano, not setting any personal best sectors, but remember, he hasn't managed to get a lap in, so it feels like, you know, Riccardo is just trying to get a little bit of a banker lap in, touching the grass on the entry to Sheen's corner. Will get away with that, but really pushing the final sector is the 64, your championship leader. The one corner stands in between him and a lap time on the board, and unlucky for him, it's the corner that he struggled with on his first flying lap. Manages to navigate Clark Curve fairly nicely, cuts the line, and that will be a lap time on the board for Serrano. Only 8th spot in between the top 3 in the primary runners. So Serrano ahead of Aubrey Condell, but behind Bobby Flack. But that was a really crucial lap for Serrano there, Mike, and he got it just within the nick of time.
Yeah, just barely gets that time in to get a qualifying time, or else he'd have to start from the back of the field. But it's with 21 cars here. Here's our starting grid for race number 4 here. On the pole, Mr. Christian Gritzko with a 108.319. Great lap from him, almost a quarter second ahead of your second place car. Next to him on the front row is Carson Keene. Agustin Castro in the 3rd spot. Brian Hoffman in 4th. Chad Rogers in 5th. Jake Luther in 6th. Then you got Bobby Flack in the 7th spot, Ricardo Serrano in 8th, Aubrey Condell in the 9th spot, in the 10th spot, Q Nin, and the 11th spot, Joshua Benjamin. 12th is going to be Dave Stevenson. In the 13th spot, Clay Harris with Brian Long starting right next to him. Will Love in the 15th spot. Next to him will be Mike Weir. Neil Alexander in the 17th spot. Gavin Ellsworth in 18th. In the 19th spot, Barry Cochran. Kevin Dixon starting in the 20th spot, and starting scratch to the field in the back row, Brett Accord.
So that sets your 21 car grid for the race today. Really set up to be an absolutely barnstorming race. I'm a little bit confused by our tyre graphics. I'll wait for everybody to get underway. There you go. We see it's saying that Black is on the alternates. I'm pretty sure he qualified on the primary, so I wonder if that's a little bit of a glitch on my timing stands. But have a look then at the number 9. There you go, Bobby Flack. What tyres has he got on? It looks to me, Mike, like he's actually got the alternates on, and I'm pretty sure that he qualified on the primary, so I'm not quite sure what's gone on there. So pace car leads the field away. One lap then before we get underway, and it will be Gritzko on the pole. Keane alongside him in 2nd place. Everybody making their way cleanly away from the grid. I tell you what, Mike, this race just feels like it's going to be a strategic race. It's all about the tyre wear. It's all about how long these drivers can take the softer alternate tyres, and how much pace, you know, Serrano and Condell and others on the primaries, how much pace can they have in the opening few laps? That could really determine the overall race result today.
Absolutely, and with the lap times being under a minute 10, I mean, it's going to be really fast around here. We're going to get into some lap traffic probably really quick, especially with the guys on the primary or on the alternates. They're probably going to run for about 5-6 laps or so on those tires, and then the black tires. Oh, we have a car spinning out on that straightaway.
Oh, big crash. Big crash in the background. Sorry to cut across you there, Mike. Is that Mike Hotham? Yes, it is. Oh, he's locked up and he's going to spear across the track. Oh, the 49 getting involved. And front wing loss. And everybody's now going to have to come to a stop. And the 49 and the 13 can't detangle each other. There's a car disappearing as they all... Well, it's now 2 Indy cars. 8 wheels certainly does not make the fastest car. And there you go, Brian Hotham decides to tow back to the pits, and Mike Weir as well, another driver in the pits. But cars already with damaged, Mike. Everybody's now going to have to reorganize, reshuffle them to get into their rightful places. A very unusual start to this race.
No, absolutely. I mean, if that's going to be the tale of how this race is going to be, it's going to be a pretty exciting race. It's so easy to suck a tire off on this grass here, and especially with these cars. You get a little bit of a tire off in the grass, and it's going to start spinning around. As you see, Agustin Castro with the front wing, he's missing that left front wing plate. That's going to cause some aero, I'm assuming. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But with the fast repair, hopefully he's able to jump in the pits in a little bit and get that fixed. Here they come around for the start, Seb.
So Christian Gritsko is your race leader. Keen, the lead of the second row. It's up to Christian to decide when he wants to get this race underway. He goes early and leads into turn one. Castro with the damaged wing sends it to the inside, gets past Carson King. Carson King demoted to third, but it's a good start from Christian Gritsko. Augustine Castro in the third, but diving to the inside goes Ricardo Serrano around the outside, I should say, making his way up to the race lead. There is Brett Accord. That's a car off into the gravel as well. That's the 12 of Brian Long. Christian Gritsko then in the race lead. Carson Keane in second place. Serrano in third as they head round Surtees corner for the first time. Everybody just about, well, there's tire smoke in the background, was going to say everybody's getting away cleanly. Aubrey couldn't tell. Well, his race just goes from bad to worse. Spinning at Surtees corner. Mike, talk us through it.
It looks like he just got under braking, maybe got spooked by the car ahead of him. I don't think he sucked the tire off at all, but it looked like he just got under braking and just the tail end chased around on him. So a tough break from Aubrey right there, right off the start, but we still got quite a bit to go. Oh, we see another car come off the track and just tag the wall. That looks like Neil Alexander just tagging that wall right there.
Neil Alexander then into the wall and will have to tow back to the pits. No way you can really recover that car. Augustine Castro does come in to the pits and he will be able to take the fast repair. He will be able to get his mandatory change of tyre compound, but I very, very much doubt that he'll be able to make his way down. Oh, lock up there from Christian Keane. Tries to send it, sorry, that's Christian Gritsko trying to send it to the inside. Keane, though, makes his way through. They're three wide, heading in to turn three. Oh, contact between the pole sitter and the championship leader. Serrano falls through the order. So does Christian Gritsko. Well, go on. Carson Keane just runs off into the distance. 3 seconds separates himself in second place. Serrano will finish after that little excursion in 15th place. Oh, more cars off into Surtees Bend. I think that's Serrano once again, maybe, as we see Will Love, the 67. He rounds and passes both the stricken cars. Heads up. Oh, he's going to lose the rears. Lock up from the rear. Gets tagged as well for good measure. Manages to keep the car off the circuit. As we see another car, and that's Rogers, Chad Rogers off the track. Oh, side by side, forcing Christian Gritsko wide. Christian won't be too pleased with that. As we all get away and we all just about manage. Oh, another car off in the background. That's the number 9 car spinning off, colliding with the number 12, Brian Long. Well, that's his second incident in as many laps. Kevin Dixon, well, not for the first time seeing the number 9 car with a Dixon on the side of it, having a little bit of an issue. Christian Gritsko getting past the cord. But all while that was happening, Mike, Carson Keane, the real winner in all of that craziness, in the lead, 4 seconds. And really, this is his race to lose now.
Yeah, Carson Keane got a great jump and got the better end of a couple deals back there and has been able to pull away and hide. It's already 4.5 second advantage on Q Nin. I mean, Q Nin's up 8 spots right now. That's very impressive from Q, just being able to make that kind of moves up right now. Then those guys are starting to pull away, but he's got Bobby Flack running in the 3rd spot now, trying to get back behind Q. As they come around right now, it's a battle for 2nd and 3rd right now. But as you can see on the timing scoring, Keane is now opened up to almost a 5-second advantage already. And here we are on lap number 3. So it's going to be curious to see when these guys on the red tires start coming into the pits. I'm guessing it's going to be around, I mean, some of these guys might try to push the limit and probably go about 10 laps or so. But the tires really start to fall off after about 4 laps with these red tires.
So this is Augustine Castro, has already come into the pits and locked up and almost got the sense a little bit of frustration creeped in there for the 49. I don't think we'll be seeing Augustine at the wheel of his Dallara IR18 for the remainder of this race. So you're right, Mike, a battle then for 2nd place. Q-Nin ahead of Bobby Flack, the 86 versus the 88 car through Hawthorne's Bend up towards Dingle Dell corner. Really have to commit to the inside, really just have to trust the downforce. I think Aubrey Condell, another driver to have a little bit of a tricky start, is headed back into the pit lane. as we see Flack falling away from Kunin through that midsection of this lap. The gap is now up to 1.2 seconds or so. Flack really starting to struggle, falling back another 2/10 just through the final corner. Benjamin, though, getting closer to Luther. What can he do as we head down the back straight towards turn 1? And by the time they stamp on the brakes, Benjamin is ahead of Luther. Luther will try and hold it around the inside of turn 1, but can't really find a way through. And, well, they have to be very, very brave to dive onto the brakes into turn 2, Graham Hill bend. And we'll have to accept that Benjamin is up into 4th spot. And Mike, it does seem now that the tyres are starting to really play a differential when it comes to the pace out there. Benjamin looking quick, but we're seeing others really struggling, and Flack and Luther certainly come to mind.
Yeah, those red tires are just really going to start falling off like a cliff right now. So it's gonna start seeing those guys on those black tires. Dave Stevenson is your top runner on the black tires right now. He's going to start inching his way up into the field as you see him closing in on Jake Luther. And he's going along and just starting to close in that gap just a bit. I mean, the big thing about this race today is going to be staying on the track. As you see Brett Accord going off, just as I said that, it's going to be serious. You have to stay on this track. And Brian Long with another problem, man. This has just been, like you would say, from bad to worse. Brian Long just dropping down the field, Seb.
Brian Long feels like he's been off the circuit more than he's been on it so far in his first 6 laps of this race. He'll get away with that one as you see Ellsworth on his push to pass, already used 2 of his allotted 10, so really burning through them in a fairly rapid rate. We can't really keep up. Oh, but Ellsworth has gone long into turn 1. He'll get away with that, but had to really apply the brakes, had to almost stop at the outside of the corner. A lock up into Graham Hill, Druids for good measure. This is Graham Hill bend turn 3. Gritzko, he's already used 4 of his push to passes. Mike, really, really surprising how sort of I was going to say frugal. I need the opposite of frugal. Gritzko has been to use 4 of his push to pass uses already. I wonder if that was to defend from Rogers. But Christian really got it all to do. Currently in 9th spot, 2.5 seconds up to the championship leader Serrano ahead of him. But this race is a little bit hectic, is a little bit crazy, and I don't think at any point it's going to sort of start to calm down. I think it's going to be one of those frenetic races from start to finish.
Yeah, definitely is going to be like that. You can see lap times are starting to fall off already. The guys are starting to come about a lap behind, or a second behind their fastest laps. So the tires are starting to fall off on those red tire cars. Oh, as you see, Ricardo really pushed the limit just a little too hard. Didn't expect for those tires to skid like that, but he was able to collect it, keep it on that asphalt section, and able to keep going. So we're coming up on the 8 laps down. So I really think the red tire guys are going to start coming in here soon. But Keen has already opened up to almost a 7-second advantage now on Q Nin. And then Q's also opened up to about a 1.5 seconds on Bobby Flack. So everybody's starting to spread out right now. This is the closest battle on the track, Seb. You've got Dave Stevenson sitting there in that 6th spot trying to reel in Jake Luther right now, Seb.
Notice in the background, Serrano off the circuit once again on the exit of Westfield's Bend. Really struggling is Serrano. Wonder if we'll see him gracing the pit lane with his presence, but he's on the primary tyres, so he really needs to take those tyres as long as possible. Stevenson then 6th place, catching up to Luther as we see Christian Gritzko, the first of our pitters, our pole sitter, shortly followed in by Brian Hotham. So 2 drivers heading into the pits, and Hotham there, and we can add Brett Accord to that list as well. So Luther in 5th place, Stevenson right behind him in 6th. You're right, Mike, closest battle by far on the circuit. Stevenson braking later, heading into turn 4. Ellsworth late send there down the inside of Coast Train, gets the move done. The primary tyres starting to become the quicker compound at this phase of the race. Lap 8, and those black walled tyres looking very, very handy, and so too are they looking handy on Ricardo Serrano's car. He's up behind Clay Harris, I should say. And Serrano just needs to keep it on the circuit, Mike. He's got a lot of pace. You can see that from how his lap times is. That's a late send heading in to the 3rd to last corner. Serrano really trying to make his way past Harris. Not going to find your way through into Sterling spend unless you're really, really committed. And Harris, for good measure, heads into the pits. But Serrano, he's had good pace, but he's been a little bit wayward with his track limits and really just needs to wind that in if he wants to have a good result here today.
Yeah, like we said earlier, they're going to have to keep it in between the white lines. You really can't. This is probably the only section you can really get it off the track. There's a couple areas where they have some of the brick area where you can actually slide off the track and get a little bit wide with it. But everywhere else, you want to really keep it between the white lines. As you see, Joshua Benjamin trying to reel in Bobby Flack. All these top 5 guys still on those red Loiva tires. And so I really think these guys are going to start coming in here pretty soon. Dave Stevenson is the first guy on those black label tires. So we'll probably see him stick out for probably at least another 10 laps or so after these guys come in. So we're about the 10-minute mark right now. But we got a 42-lap race, and we're only coming up on lap 10 right now as these guys start coming around right now. So we're just about a quarter of the way through the race, and all the tire strategy is definitely kicking in already, Seb.
It most certainly is. Fascinating race then unfolding. Lap 10, as you mentioned, Mike. Stevenson once again trying to pressurize Luther, heading in to turn 1. Paddock Hill won't be able to make a move. Lock up there into Druid's corner. Stevenson really started to feel the pressure. Serrano gaining in the background. That gap is almost down to under a second. You can see on your screen the push-to-pass usage. Stevenson has used it 2 times. Serrano 3, as there's a Cochrane driver heading in to the pit. So he's wanting to get off those alternate tyres. The top 5 still yet to pit in this race. And once again, just like Serrano, Stevenson is really quick out there. You know, his lap times, when he can make a lap without making a mistake, it is really competitive, but just cannot, you know, find a rhythm as we see Benjamin getting past Flack. I wonder if Bobby Flack has made a little bit of a mistake on that last couple of corners or so, as that's Brian Long just neatly getting out of the way as we see Flack coming in to the pits. I wonder if that 88 car has had a little bit of an issue, because Benjamin managed to make the move in a fairly unusual portion of the circuit. So Serrano up to 6th spot, still trying to chase down Stevenson, but drivers just not finding a rhythm out there. Another lock-up from Stevenson to prove my point. Just feels like if you can find the first driver to find a rhythm will really be the winner around here today.
Yeah, this is a tough track to really get into a rhythm because there's so many different kinds of turns. There's some long sweeping ones, and then there you got a couple just hard braking ones, and it's such a feel track. You really have to feel by the seat of your pants to get around some of these turns. As we're on board with Ricardo Serrano right now, sitting right behind Dave Stevenson. So these are your top 2 primary guys right now. And as you see, the gap is really closed in. Serrano is setting a good pace right now, and he's really putting the pressure on Stevenson as they come on the inside. And we talked about passing in that section right there earlier. If you got a good run coming into turn 9, it was a great spot to surprise somebody and come on the inside and take that pass. And Ricardo Serrano was able to do that.
Well, I said you had to get up early in the morning to send it to the inside, and clearly Serrano set his alarm very early this morning. Up into 5th place then goes Serrano and takes the lead of the first, or of the primary tyre runners. That's a crucial move then for your championship leader. Keane still out in the race lead, almost 10 seconds separates himself and second place Q Nin. This is the battle further down the field for 10th and 11th. Gritzko and Harris, both drivers coming in to the pit lane for at least their first stop. Gritzko through turn 1, Paddock Hill, a little bit of understeer, almost touches the gravel on the outside. Druid's corner, turn 2, lock up from the car ahead. Harris really pushing, feeling the pressure from the 91 of Gritzko. Is Ellsworth been off the circuit? I wonder. Flack making his way past him. And Gritzko needs to be a little bit wary here, Mike. You know, he's only got 5 push-to-pass uses left, while some of the drivers on the circuit, Keane, Nin, and Luther, just to mention a few, still have all 10. And I wonder what has happened to Ricardo Serrano.
Oh, looks like he made that, that section he made a great, brilliant pass on, just overshot it himself and trying to push so hard to reel in and just got off the track and made a little touch on that outside wall. Hopefully didn't do too much damage, but he is yet to come into the pit. So when he comes into his pit, he should be able to get a fast repair and repair any slight damage that he might have. But you see Christian Gritzko all over that back wing of Harris right now, coming down the front section, down the pit straight. Christian Gritzko getting a nice little toe down, coming into turn one, makes a great pass on the inside, hard under braking, and makes that pass. Tries to run a little block right here as Clay Harris trying to look his nose back on that inside, gets right up next to that rear wheel, but has to back down and let the fight go on for another day. Good racing from these guys. Good clean battle coming in that first half of that lap right there, Seb.
Both of men in the background as well, starting to gain on the pair of them. Am I right in thinking that it was Hotham, one of the drivers, caught up in that little scuffle before the race had even got going? I do apologise if I've misremembered memories that good at this time of the morning, but I think it was producer in my ear confirming our suspicions. I do recognise that livery from somewhere, certainly, but Hotham gaining in on Harris. Gritzko needs to run away as quickly as possible, needs to put a little bit of distance between himself and Hotham. Gritzko, oh, big slide, and into the wall goes Clay Harris, and well, that is how quickly things can unfold around the Brands Hatch circuit. Certainly when you're driving a Dallara IndyCar. Harris spat into the wall, surprisingly continues for at least another lap. Looked like he was struggling for a little bit of steering control. Wonder if he's knocked a tie rod out or something. Clay Harris certainly not taking a lot of speed through turn one. We ride on board, steering looks relatively straight, and that'll be the big concern about having an impact like that. Record ahead of us, locking up into Druid's corner for good measure. But that was a huge incident. Can't believe that Clay Harris is still continuing, if I'm completely honest, Mike.
Yeah, I'm pretty surprised by it too, because it was a pretty good whack on that wall. And it looked like he was laboring just a bit to get around, but he will resume his battle and keep on going. But your top four cars still on those red label tires and still have not come into pit. Your leader, Carson Keene, still stretching out to a 12-second advantage right now. I mean, that is just a massive advantage on a track that's only a minute, and what are they doing? A minute 10 right now is their last lap. So, I mean, that is just an absolute massive advantage when we're not even halfway through the race yet. So a very impressive run for Keene right now, especially still rocking those alternate tires. Still turning a 110, so he's just a second off his fastest lap right now. So he's been able to keep them tires in between those white lines and keep going.
Superb job. It's one superb job from the top three. Keene with that 13-second advantage, queued in, up 8 spots. So too is Joshua Benjamin, third spot. As we ride on board with Joshua Benjamin, queued in the car ahead of us through Clark Corner. Both drivers deciding not to head into the pit lane. We saw Joshua Benjamin earlier on using one of his push-to-pass uses on the back straight wide, though, from Q-Nin. That's going to give a huge opportunity to Joshua Benjamin to make the move into Druid's corner, but somehow Nin had a little bit more speed off the corner and remains ahead. Q-Nin looking under pressure, though. Benjamin really applying said pressure, and while these two battle, don't count out fourth place man Jake Luther in the background. You just see him sort of the background of some of these camera shots, really just starting to gain on these two. It's gained a 1/10 of a second through the last two corners. Benjamin gaining in the slipstream as we head down towards turn 5, Hawthorne's Bend. Into Westfield we go. Not an overtaking opportunity, certainly a few corners ahead, just to follow and just to gauge where your opponent is just a little bit quicker than you. Keene heading into the pit lane then, so that's an indication that his tyres are done. Wonderful to see Cunyon and Benjamin follow suit into Clark Corner, the final corner. Does anybody dive to pit road? No, they don't. So I think we'll definitely get a new race leader. Cunyon then leads this race with Keene heading into the pits for his first stop. Keene will come out in 6th place. Just goes to show how much of an advantage he had in the race lead. Benjamin locks up heading into Druid's corner. really pushing the limits. And Jake Luther now, Mike, within a second, he is looking absolutely rapid. Really has been able to keep his tyres alive, I think, unlike Nin, currently in the lead, who looks to be struggling just a little bit.
Yeah, Nin's been struggling, especially coming into turn 1 the last couple laps. That turn is so blind and so hard to time sometimes. And if you're having some tire fall off, it's going to make it even harder to grab onto those turns. But Jake Luther sitting in that 3rd spot, just inching his way closer and closer to these guys. He's been putting in a masterful drive. He's really trying to carry on his momentum he had from our GT3 league on Tuesday night, where he just laid out just a great race. And so he's trying to just carry that momentum onto the Indy League. And he's been inching his way closer and closer to that back wing of Joshua Benjamin. As you see Nin diving into the pit, Seb.
So your current, well, your one of your race leaders in this race heads to the pit lane. So does Stevenson, and so does Serrano. So Nin has actually managed to go as long as some of the primary car runners. Carson Keane, I should say, heading up into 3rd spot. He's already made his stop in this race. You have to wonder, the drivers that stopped really early doors, sort of Gritsko, Hotham come to mind. Are they going to be able to make it to the end, or make it to the end at least in a comfortable manner, I wonder? As we see Carson Keane, the number 99, your de facto race leader when Benjamin and Luther head to pit road. So Nin back out into 5th spot, but Bobby Flack ahead of him. So the undercut working out for Flack, as you see the gap between himself and Nin. Both are on the primary tyres. Nin's tyres, though, I do believe, Mike, are a few laps younger, and that might be the crucial factor when it comes to who is the quicker of these two over a race distance. Roger on his push to pass as we see Benjamin heading into the spot. Jake Luther going for another lap. I mean, these alternates are almost running as long as some of the primary cars. That's a really impressive feat.
Well, and Jake Luther, his best time right now is a 1:10.7, and his last lap was a 1:11.3. So he is super consistent with his lap times, just repeating one after another, not pushing the car too hard, not really slowing it down, but he's able to keep a good pace. But the challenge with that, though, is you've got Carson Keane breathing down your neck. Carson's already came in for a pit stop, and he's only 6 seconds back. You're looking probably a good 30-plus seconds to get in the pits, get fuel, get tires, and get back out. So it's going to drop him back down in the field, down quite a ways, and he'll have to work his way back up the field. But he's coming around for his 20th lap right now. So if he's able to pull off midway through the race right now on these red label tires and with fuel, maybe he's only going to make it the rest of the way on those blacks and not have to stop again. These other guys are going to have to stop one more time. So I'm wondering if Jake Luther is playing the fuel save game right now. That might be why he's actually lapping around at that consistent pace. He just turned his fastest lap of the race, a 1:10.5, and that's with 20 lap old red label tires. So he's actually doing a fantastic job of keeping this car going, and he's definitely doing some fuel saving right now because we're closing in on that halfway point. So if he's able to make it this far on those red labels, he's going to go the rest of the way on the black ones.
What pace can Luther muster on those primary tyres, I wonder? Hotham and Gritsko side by side heading into turn 1. And Hotham managing to catch up to Christian Gritsko. Gritsko, I wonder if it's a little bit damaged after the incidents that he's had. Sending it to the inside goes Hotham, side by side on the exit. Oh, spinning off goes Christian Gritsko. Touched the grass, and the pole sitter once again falls off the racing circuit. One corner to the previous of where he fell foul last time. Nin in 5th spot, coming under pressure from Serrano. Serrano is back out on the primary tyres, which indicates that he's going to have to come into the pits again to have another stop. Oh, contact is made between himself and Nin. Disastrous there for the two involved. Stevenson making his way past one of the cars, but Stevenson's off the circuit. Oh, it's an all cluster out on the racing circuit as he heads through Sheen's corner. And that's a very damaged car of the 86. That's Q-Nin. He's going to have to come into the pit, surely. So too is Riccardo Serrano, but he's got the car on the inside. He's just about managed to make his way to pit road. So Q-Nin and Serrano both heading into the pits. Well, Mike, I said that Serrano was going to have to make at least one more stop, and well, I don't think he was necessarily expecting it to be so early on in the day.
Yeah, he's been pretty aggressive this entire race, and it's not paying dividends right now. He ran a masterful race at Indy 2 weeks ago, but this track is definitely a lot different than Indy. There's no time to breathe when you're running on this track. It's just corner after corner after corner, and it's just definitely not paying dividends for him. As you see a great battle with Christian Gritzko and Brett Accord right behind him. That's for 8th and the 9th spot right now. As we look out the back wing right now of Gritzko, you can see Accord just a quarter of a second back, drafting down the back straightaway. But it looks like our leader, Jake Luther, finally coming into the pit, Seb, just dropping down to the 2nd spot, but he has finally made it into pit lane on lap 22.
I think I saw that Luther changed on to the alternate tyres, but he's gone back out on. No, he was on the alternate. On the alternate to start off with, and now he's on the primary. So certainly hits a field his tyre quota. Wonder if he can make it to the end of the race. You have to hazard a guess that he will be able to, after making it 25 minutes into this race in some 22 out of the 42 laps. Gritzko and Accord still battling out after Gritzko's spin earlier on. As he head through turn 3, Joshua Benjamin, your new 2nd place driver. Right behind him, Bobby Flack in 3rd. Joshua Benjamin is up 9 spots now from where he started. Of course, was running in 3rd in the first stint. Had Q-Nin right behind him for company, but Q had that issue with Serrano. And actually, Serrano and Nin separated by about a second and a half on the racing circuit. At the moment, Nin heading up to the back of Clay Harris, but it's bad luck could get a little bit spicy. Serrano and Nin, well, they've had some history already in this race, and Serrano is on the faster alternate tyres, both Nin and Harris ahead of him on the Blackboard primaries. I think this battle could get a little bit spicy, a little bit tasty, Mike, and surely if you're Riccardo Serrano, you just need to get through, be as clean and as concise as possible. Doesn't look like Serrano's going to do that. Dives to the inside of Sterling Ben. Can't find a way through on this next corner up towards Clark Curve. We're going to have to wait and see. And there may be a little bit of push to pass usage. Serrano just has the better run out of the corner. It says that Serrano's on the alternate tyres, but they certainly look like the primary tyres to me. Serrano will brake late and make the move. And Serrano is up into 11th spot. And that was fair. A lot cleaner than it was a few laps ago, Mike, when they tried to do that. But Serrano is cutting through the field at the moment.
Yeah, there's something weird with the iRacing tires model right now. So if you just look at the timing tower, it shows that Serrano is on that alternate tire, and that is the tire that he is on. So the color wall in the game doesn't always change correctly, but Serrano on that alternate tire, that's how he's able to cut through those guys pretty quickly. He was trying to make that move coming around turn 10 earlier, and because he was sticking just a lot better, but you'll start seeing him start pulling away. But he's only going to be able to do this for 10 to 12 laps. Then he's going to have to change back to a different tire and make another pit stop. But he's been off the track a few times, so he's just got to try to push hard to get back up towards the top of the field. But as you see, you've already got Carson Keene back up front. As you see Jake Luther out on the track right now, let's see if something happened to Jake coming into turn 2. Looked like he just got a little late coming in there, real late, set under braking, spins it out. Tough break for Luther. He's luckily able to keep it going, not making any mistake, not hitting the wall, but this is going to be just brutal for his fuel saving. He was doing such a great job, and he's dropping all the way down to the 9th spot. When he came out of the pits earlier, he was about 4th, and it's going to drop him all the way down to the 9th spot. So he's really going to have to play that mode and fuel save even more and try to hope that these guys all ahead of him have to stop one more time. As you see Q-Nin still battling out with Harris as they're coming into the section right here, Seb.
Very unlucky spin there for Luther, Q-Nin and Clay Harris side by side once again. Clay Harris being overtaken by Q-Nin, and That's an overtake as we see a replay of said overtake. A late move into turn 5. Very nicely done for the 86. Superb move there, really showing the commitment in showing that those newer tyres that are on Kunin's car at the moment working very nicely. But another driver just like Luther having to really work hard to work his way up the field. Serrano sets the new fastest lap of the race. This is Gavin Ellsworth. Oh, running off the circuit. Is he going to make contact with the wall? Oh, we see a nose cone fly over the tyre barrier, so that's a firm yes. And the number 14 car heading back to pit lane. I wonder if that's Ellsworth race over. Certainly a lot of damage to the front end of his car. So 26 laps into this 42 lap race, everything starting to just calm down a little bit. 21 cars started this race, 19 remain, with Ellsworth going back to the pits a few laps ago in Augustine Castro, now 20 laps down. As we see Hotham into the pits, he was one of our drivers that stopped very early on, so was Brett Accord, both of them heading into the spot. Don't count out William Love as well, another driver heading to pit road, so they have to do the two-stop strategy. As we just see now what is going to happen as we head with onboard. I'll tell you what, why don't we have a little bit of an onboard lap mic with Carson Keane, your race leader.
Yeah, as you see Keane now coming down into, let's see, last turn number 10 right now, and down the top straight. Keane has been masterful this entire time. As you come into turn 1, you got to get hard onto the braking right here, and you want to aim to that inside line right here. It's a blind section, so hard to see it at times, especially in these Indy cars. Then you get hard into the braking into turn 2, into the Druids turn, and that's a good braking spot to get by a lap car, to get past whatever you got to do as they come around a bottom bend. Is that where you can run off just a bit, carry a little bit of extra speed? Then you kind of want to drag the brakes a little bit. Real late entry coming into South Bank, and then you come down the straight right now into Pilgrim's Drop. He's just drafting right behind here, just kind of hanging on. I mean, he's got a 25-second lead right now, so he doesn't want to push too hard. But here's that series of right-hand turns. 5, 6, 7, 8, all right-hand turns. It's just going to be brutal on those left side tires as they come into Dingledale Corner right now and into the Sterling's turn number 9, and back coming down Clearways into turn number 10. Your leader Carson Keane laying it down and showing us the way around one more time around as he's coming down the straightaway. Goes on the inside. Car lets him go by. Good sportsmanship from that lap car. But Keane comes by and turns a 111.1. The guy's setting the pace right now out in front with that 25-second gap, Seb.
Really cruising at the moment, isn't he, Carson Keane? Great job by him. We saw Serrano very quickly getting past Jake Luther and then making his way into the pit lane. So Serrano on his, what I believe will be the 3rd stop in this race. Carson Keane, I think, will be having to come into the pits again. Confirmation then that was Serrano's 3rd stop. It's also Hotham has been into the pits for 3 times. I wonder if that's also for the damage that he sustained on that opening lap incident. So Hotham, the top runner then of the drivers that have stopped more than once, and in fact he's been in the pits 3 times I should say. So Hotham doing a great job out on the circuit at the moment. Brett Accord, 1 minute and 3 seconds off the race leader. Just the field spread is fairly incredible at the moment, Mike. Everybody starting to really end up in their own race, starting to manage the tyres, starting to manage the fuel. And it would be really interesting, or would have been really interesting, I should say, to be watching at the moment where Jake Luther is currently in 6th spot, but that spin really cost him. We saw earlier on was, a driver that was going for the fuel saving strategy, worked out really well, managed to do 25 minutes or so on a tank of fuel. But Luther, that spin, as I said, really cost him, and he'll be lucky to, I think, get on the podium.
Yeah, he's showing 48 seconds behind your leader right now, and with the pit lane, being about 30, 35 seconds or so. It's just going to be too big of a gap for him to try to make up, especially on Carson Keene, who's been laying it down. As you see Gritzko off the track again, this has just gone from bad to worse the whole way through this race. Christian Gritzko just setting the early pace and then just dropping down the field. He's dropping down to the 11th spot right now, 10 places behind his pole position. But as I said earlier, you get a tire off into that grass, and it just wants to turn around on you. He just barely taps that outside wall with his right rear tire. Looks like there was not any damage, but he's able to continue. But it's just been a rough race for Christian Gritzko.
Oh, Bobby Flack, the 88 car off the circuit as well. Is that down at Surtees corner? Yes, it is. And Black, oh, he was in the Indy circuit, the very nicely named Indy circuit. So this is through turn 3 then, up towards Surtees, breaking the 50 board. Ideally, another lock of the rear car, lock of the rear tyres. Car goes hurling through the sideways direction. And Flack has to, well, it's almost like he's on a driving test, having to do a little bit of a 3-point turn. And Flack out in the race in 9th spot. And that elevates Luther up into 5th spot. So Flack was one of the first drivers to come into the pits for his 2nd time, and just like Luther, a spin really costing him not what he would have needed whatsoever. And then Christian Gritzko, oh, Gritzko's off the circuit. Surely that's going to be contact with the wall, and yes it is. And well, Mike, you said his day is going from bad to worse. Well, it's gone to plain right down, damn awful. Christian Gritzko, our pole sitter, into the pits, and I hazard to guess that we will not be seeing that 91 car out on the racing circuit again. Got wide through the final corner, couldn't really recover. We saw the championship leader Serrano do that in qualifying, and well, Gritzko was really in a collision course as soon as he touched the wheel on that outside grass.
Yeah, it just came in a little too hot through there and just couldn't catch that back end around. Tough break for Christian. He's been doing a great job on our Tuesday night league, and he's been able to I mean, he had an amazing race last Tuesday night and just couldn't carry that on through. But as we'll go run through the running order right now, out in front is Carson Keene. Carson with that 25-second advantage. In the 2nd spot right now is Joshua Benjamin. Josh doing a great job. I've had many battles with this guy, and it's good to see him running in a podium position right now with still 11 laps to go. And in the 3rd spot, about 5 seconds behind Benjamin, is Dave Stevenson in the 777 car running for Madness M Squad. And in the 4th spot, car number 4 of Chad Rogers. Chad been pretty quiet race for us. We haven't really talked too much about him. He's sitting there in that 4th spot running that red labeled tire, so we'll have to see how long he can go on those tires and hang on to that spot. In the 5th spot, our guy we were watching earlier for the fuel saving, Jake Luther, doing a great job right now running in the 5th spot, able to work his way back up just a bit. But running behind him, about 2 seconds behind him, is car number 13 of Brian Hotham. Brian had that brutal start right off the bat, but he's been able to work his way back up into the 6th spot. So it's been a great drive from the back on Brian Hotham's spot. And in the 7th spot, car number 86 of Q Nin. Nin about 8 seconds behind Hotham right now. Just trying to pace around, trying to keep on going. And then in the 8th spot, you've got car number 15 of Brett Accord. We've seen Brett kind of suck a couple tires off the track earlier on, and has dropped him back in the field just a bit. But he is up 13 spots from his starting spot, so that's still a good showing from Brett. And in the 9th spot, we have the 88 car of Bobby Flack. We saw Bobby get off under braking real hard coming into one of the turns earlier and just getting off the track completely. So he's trying to do a recovery mode right now. And it's looked like we have Ricardo having another issue, getting to chasing that tire, the back end around, and just tags the wall again. So your points leader just having the heck of a time tonight, just getting fallen down the order. And he's being shown in the 10th spot right now. So he was actually our next guy we're going to come to. So we had Bobby Flack and then Ricardo Serrano in 10th, trying to do a recovery drive now. In the 11th spot, right behind him, is Barry Cochran. So Barry in that 711 car, not too far back, trying to make a move on Ricardo. Ricardo might have some damage from that little tap on the wall, so we'll have to see if Barry can get by him. And then in the 12th spot, we've got our admin from the league, Mike Weir, in the wrong stuff. Car number 20 sitting in the 12th spot. Right behind him is Clay Harris. Clay trying to get a good battle going on in that 13th spot. And then in the 14th spot, about 5 seconds behind, is Aubrey Condell in the 653, running in the 14th spot. Your leader coming in the pits now, Carson Keene, coming in for what should be his final pit stop, Seb. We'll let the rest of the field be kind of shown on the tower to see where they're at, but your leader in for what should be his final pit stop. Carson Keene putting on, looks like the red tires. He's going to make a run for the end here.
Yeah. Oh, he spun!
Oh.
The race leader, he spins on the pit exit and he manages just about to get away, but that is no front wing for the 99 car. It was risky by Carson Keene to come out on the red wall tyres. Not saying that caused the spin, it was simply a little bit of over exuberance on the throttle pedal, but this is disastrous for Carson Keene. I said earlier on it was his race to win, but it's all falling by the wayside. He needs now to make his way around the circuit. He's undoubtedly going to have to come back into the pits. He's going to have to change that front wing. He's not going to have enough grip to maintain his race lead or maintain any form of bearing on the racing circuit. A little bit. Oh, contact is made. Oh, Keene's off and into the wall. And Carson Keene is out of this race. So too is Weir. So too is Cochran. And it's all gone disastrously wrong for your race leader. And oh my God, Mike, that is how quick motor racing and sim racing can change. Oh, and Weir arrived on the scene at a great rate of knots into the wall. Not quite sure how to apportion blame there, but really costly. Oh, a little bit of a reversing incident as well, a la Daniel Ricciardo, Baku 2019.
Yeah, it looks like Cochran just got into the back of Keene just a bit, not realizing that Keene didn't have a front wing, that Keene really had to take a slow section into that turn, and Barry just tapped him in the back just enough, and it just caused them all to get taken out. Tough break for your leader, Carson Keene. I mean, if he wouldn't have gotten a little overzealous coming out of pit lane, none of this would have happened. He would have been able to get out there, get a runner away, and actually stay ahead of Joshua Benjamin. But now out in front, Joshua Benjamin now inheriting the lead. So this has been a great run for Joshua, and he's got about a 5-second advantage on Stevenson. So it bumped everybody up one spot. And as you look on our board right now, Joshua Benjamin up 10 spots from his starting position, and so is Dave Stevenson. So your top two cars both up 10 places from their starting grid. So it's a lot of guys are having some issues, but it's the guys starting in the middle of the pack that are really showing the way around right now, Seb.
Oh, it certainly is. Wow, how does motor racing change like that in a heartbeat? I will never know. Benjamin, your new race leader, inheriting the race lead. Done a great job, was in third until Q-Nin had his coming together with Serrano, or should I say Serrano had his coming together with Q-Nin, and then that mistake from your long-time race leader. Carson Keene elevating him up into the lead spot. Luther in third place, a second or so behind Brian Hotham. Hotham has been into the pits. He's been into the pits, what would that be, 3-4 times now? Supremely, it'll be, 3 times that Hotham would have been into the pits. So can Luther make his way onto the podium, or has Hotham got a little bit more pace up his sleeve? Not to mention that Benjamin might have to come into the pits again. And if Benjamin does, we could be looking at Hotham and Luther battling out for the race lead. So we've gone from a fairly certain race win to a very uncertain race win. Benjamin is into the pit lane. I hazard to guess, Mike, that he'll stick on a set of the Redwall alternate tyres. He'll just want as much performance as possible. Aubrey Condell catching up to the back of Clay Harris, heading into the braking zone of turn 1. And I wonder if we could just have a quick look at how many push-to-pass uses our drivers have left. Hotham does take the race lead. That's a crucial addition to this race, and so too does Luther get through. And look at that, Mike. Benjamin, 2 uses of push to pass left. Compare that to Luther's 8 and Hotham's 9. Benjamin. He's got the quicker tyre, he's got the younger tyre out on the circuit, but only 2 push-to-pass uses. It's an uphill battle, you have to say, for Benjamin to get this race win today.
Yeah, well, if you look at the pit strategy right here, Hotham and Luther should both be good till the end of the race. Luther's probably going to be the one that should have had to really fuel save a little bit earlier, but now it's time for game time. It's time to hammer time is what we call for Lewis Hamilton, is to lay it down right now. But Benjamin, with those super sticky red tires, he's going to have to wait probably a good lap or so to get some good temperature into him, and then he's going to have to start pushing on these guys. He's good for the rest of the race, but he's going to have to try to make quick moves on these guys and get ahead of them before these red label tires fall off. So as you see him closing in right now, less than half a second behind Jake Luther as they're coming down that pit straight, closing in super fast. As you see him coming into turn 1, he makes a look on that inside, can't quite stick it. Coming down in turn 1, and he's going to come hard into braking into turn 2. He's going to have to file in single file right now as they have that lap car just ahead of him. You don't want to get too overzealous right now, but we're closing in on time. We've only got 5 laps to go, Seb, so it's going to still be a great drag race battle for these guys. I really think Joshua's got to get by Luther in this next lap to try to make a run on Brian Hotham, because Hotham, Seb, is going to be good till the end. So he's already got a 3-second advantage on these guys, but Joshua Benjamin has to make a move. He's only got 1 push to pass left, Seb.
1 push to pass to go then for Joshua Benjamin. It's certainly going to be a well-deserved victory. If it's Hotham, he's going to have to fight for it. If it's Benjamin, well, he's certainly going to have to fight for it. Riding on board on looking back towards the rear end of Luther's car, and all the time that Benjamin is stuck behind the rear wing of Luther, he's losing ground to Hotham up ahead. The gap is now 3 seconds between Luther and Hotham. On the inside, though, goes Luther. Had a better run using that grip on the outside of the final turn of Clark Curve. And by the time they hit the brakes, Joshua Benjamin is ahead and up into 2nd spot. What can he do? I wonder. Barry Cochran, where is he? Had a little bit of an issue hearing in my ear that he might have just fallen off the circuit. He's locked up the rears heading in to the 3rd to last corner. Is he going to make contact with a car? 2 contacts there, and Cochran heading back into the pits and losing a front wing as well for good measure. So that battle now, 2.8 seconds separates Hotham and Benjamin. Keep your eyes firmly trained on the timing tower. 3 laps left to go in this race. The 20 car of Mike Weir off the circuit on the straight. Bobby Flack using push to pass. 5 uses left in his bank. Trying to get past Chad Rogers heading in to turn 5. Can't make the move though. Have to settle. Can he get it? He's a little bit deep. Into the gravel goes Bobby Flack. He gets away with that, but drivers really struggling. And Jake Luther, his day just goes from bad to worse. He's was passed by Benjamin 1 lap ago, and he's now got Stevenson also on the alternate tyres, getting very close to him in the braking zone of turn 1. And Benjamin sends it to the inside, heading into Druid's corner. And by the time they hit the throttle, it's Stevenson now up into 3rd spot, and Luther sees his podium chances slipping away. And Mike, I said to keep your eyes trained on the gap for the lead. That is now disintegrated really from almost 3 seconds to 1.6 seconds. Benjamin's got 2 laps left to go, but Benjamin is absolutely rapid on the circuit. He's got no more push to passes left, but does that even matter? But Hotham still has 9 push to passes to go, but he is on the little bit slower tires. But Benjamin now on about 4 lap old red tires. This is where they start to fall off just a bit. But as you see, as fastest laps right now, Benjamin turns the fastest lap of his race with a 109.8 last time by, trying to reel in Brian Hotham as they come by the stripe on 41 laps down. So they're coming around, and he's just starting to run out of time. As Hotham's still out in front with his 1.8 second advantage, Seb. It's starting to run out of time for Joshua Benjamin to make a move on him. So will it be Hotham, the race winner, the driver who's made 3 stops in this race, the driver who was sideways before the race had even gotten going, or will it be Benjamin, a driver who has climbed, well, would have climbed 10 places if he manages to get this race win. This race is set up absolutely perfectly and has been throughout this entirety of this race. Benjamin through turn 5, starting to gain on Hotham. He can see him up ahead of him, so tantalizingly close. 1.3 seconds separates the top two. We're coming around into Sterling Bend. Corners really starting to run out for Joshua Benjamin to utilize those alternate tires. He will be just about within a second. Through Clark Curve we go. White flag will be in the air. 1 lap left to go in today's proceedings. The ride on board with Benjamin into the braking zone of turn 1. Second separates first and second. Benjamin needs to be picture perfect throughout this lap. He needs to nail every braking zone. He needs to carry as much speed as humanly possible through each one of these corners. Hotham is at a good first sector, though that gap is not really reduced. Finally, Benjamin breaks that 1 second threshold. Hotham through turn 3. Oh, he goes a little bit deep. He'll be able to just about get away with that, but that's a huge opportunity for Benjamin. Hotham, though, not feeling the need to use his push-to-pass system as we head towards turn 4, Hawthorne Bend. As we see Benjamin looming in the background, this is going to be a dogfight to the end. Through turn 6 we go on the exit up towards Dingledale and Sheen's Corner. Hotham and Benjamin separated by, well, not even tenths of a second. It's car lengths that we need to worry about now. Through the penultimate corner we go, up towards the final corner. It's going to be a drag race to the line. To the outside goes Benjamin. Can he try and go all the way around the outside? Will he have enough grip? Will Hotham be able to hold on? Hotham's not using his push to pass, but it doesn't matter. And Brian Hotham will come across the line to win by 600ths of a second from Joshua Benjamin. Stevenson in 3rd, Luther in 4th place, and then Accord, Rogers and Flag. Well, they're having a little bit of a scrap as well. Flag and Rogers with Flag onto the push to pass. Oh, almost getting chopped across the nose there was Bobby Flag. I apologize, getting all the names mixed up. 9,000ths of a second separates Flag and Rogers, but Mike, what a finish to that race. You couldn't write it. You absolutely couldn't write it.
No, absolutely not. That was a spectacular finish for a race. I mean, Brian Hotham, as we saw him on the pace lap, spin out, have to go into pit lane to get fixed, and is able to work his way back up through the 21 car field with 3 pit stops and still take the win. What a great run from Brian Hotham. Joshua Benjamin, I mean, made it just ran out of time. If he had maybe 2 or 3 more turns, he would have made a run at him. But man, what a great race that was.
It's a race that had it all. It absolutely had it all. We had, drama, intrigue, strategy. Certainly thoroughly enjoyable, and that's a fairly big understatement as well. As your results come up on your screen, and then confirmation that Brian Hotham is your race winner. 600ths of a second separates himself from Joshua Benjamin, who is, all credit to him, up 9 spots. He finishes in 2nd spot. David Stevenson in 3rd. And he is also up 9 spots from where he started. Jake Luther, the one stopper in this race, finishes in 4th spot. Brett Accord 5th, Chad Rogers 6th, Bobby Flag in 7th, Q Nin in 8th place. 9th spot goes to your championship leader, Ricardo Serrano. Carson Keane, your long-time race winner after that multitude of incidents that he had after his final stop, finishes in 10th spot. Clay Harris 11th, Aubrey Condell in 12th, and the first of a driver to finish a lap down. Brian Long 13th, Will Love 14th, and Alexander finishes 2 laps off the lead in 15th place. So too does Mike Weir in 16th spot. And then I think we get into our retirements. Gavin Ellsworth in 17th, 4 laps off the race lead. Cochran, Gritzko, Kevin Dixon and Augustine Castro, all drivers to retire from today's proceedings. And Mike, that was just an utterly stunning race. I thoroughly enjoyed my time in the commentary booth. And, well, I wonder if the driver on your screen at the moment, Brian Hotham, enjoyed it as much as we did in the commentary booth. And luckily for us is we don't have to speculate. We can have a chat to him right now. Brian, welcome to the commentary booth. That was an utterly amazing race. And well, after the incident that you had on the formation lap, did you think that you'd be sitting in the commentary booth today, the race winner?
Definitely not. And I was kind of hoping you guys didn't catch that. That was a little bit embarrassing there. But I thought, people would be aggressive. I'd hope I'd be able to make up some spots on attrition. And I felt like I had a good strategy. So I had hope for a top 10, but I didn't think P1 was coming.
I mean, you needed a little bit of luck to go your way in terms of, Castro and Kunin and a few other drivers sort of having their own incidents, but you kept it clean after the formation lap and just ran a really, really good race. I want to ask you about your push to pass uses, because you had 9, at least according to our software, when you crossed the line. You just didn't feel the need to use them on the final lap. Were you that certain that you were going to be able to keep Joshua behind you?
Oh, not at all. I was actually, when I saw him come out on reds, I reserved myself to P2. I mean, I thought for sure he was going to catch me, but passing is another thing on this track, especially. But I had my fuel strategy so to the decimal that using that push to pass uses more fuel. So I try to only use it if I have to, or if it's a super big advantage.
Interesting. That's a really interesting insight into the calculations that go on within the cockpit. I mean, are you a fan of racing the IndyCar around the Branch Hat circuit? Because it's not, a typical sort of staple on the IndyCar circuit, but it certainly looked like good fun from the commentary booth.
It's definitely a roller coaster, and I would say when I first started practicing, I wasn't a fan, but definitely it's a lot of fun. There's a couple of corners you're kind of sliding it through, getting a little bit of grass, as long as it's not too much. And no, it was a lot of fun.
Well, it certainly looked that way. So next time out, we head to Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, a really iconic European circuit. Are you looking forward to that? Do you think that you might be able to replicate the result tonight?
Oh, replicate will be a tall mountain to climb. Like you said, I did have some luck tonight for sure. And there's a lot, the long straights at Spa. So definitely, we'll probably be on push to pass next week.
Well, thank you so much, Brian, for coming to have a chat with us in the commentary booth. Congratulations on your race win. And before we let you go and celebrate, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to at all?
Just my teammates at Divided by Zero. We kind of help each other out with a little bit of strategy, and I definitely couldn't have done it without them. And a shout out to my number 1 fan who watches every week. She knows who she is.
Thank you so much, Brian, and once again, congratulations on your great race result today.
Thank you, and thank you for what you guys do. I love the broadcast.
I think you'll love this one just a little bit more.
True.
Thank you very much, Brian and Mike. That was your race winner. Have you managed to find anybody else lurking around the paddock?
Yeah, actually, I think I have stumbled across the second place finisher, Joshua Benjamin. Josh, you and I have a history, my friend, and we go back a couple seasons in some leagues. But you know what, buddy? It is great to see you on the podium this week. You did a masterful job of working your way through the field. And if you had maybe another dozen, just one more lap, I think you would have had a great move on your winner. But Josh, great race from you. How did it come from you? How did your race go?
Honestly, I had a feeling this one was just going to be about survival again. These cars feel like jets in a gymnasium around here. Super fun to drive, but difficult to race.
Yeah, it looked. Did you have any close incidents during the race? I mean, it looked, every time we looked up to you, you looked like you were between the white lines. So, did you have anybody close battles, or close calls, or any run off the track earlier on?
Nope, nothing this time around, thank goodness. It seems to be my motif. My biggest adversary is myself. And yeah, no, everything went according to plan today. Kept it clean, kept it between the white lines, as you say. And it's good to be back in an interview chair.
Well, it's good I am proud to be for some of the battles that you and I have had across the board. I had to make sure I was the one interviewing to you because you and I have chatted off and on for the last couple of years probably, and I'm proud to say it was good to see you up in the second spot today. You did a great job, and I think your strategies worked really well. It looked like you made good runs every time out. So congratulations on finishing in second. My friend, while you're here in the interview booth, you got anybody you want to shout out or any call outs for anybody?
The entire WSRL, thank you for having me. Will, thank you for bringing me in. I love this. I love racing with you guys, and you run a clean type ship.
Awesome. Well, congratulations, my friend Josh. Go celebrate and your second place finish today, and we look forward to see you next week at Spa.
43 laps at Brands Hatch next time.
You got it, buddy. I know the admins. I'll work on that for you. All right, buddy?
Yes, sir. Have a good night.
Thanks. You too, Josh. That was your third place or your second place finisher, Joshua Benjamin. Mr. Sebastian, I think you have found our third place finisher.
I have found our third place finisher. And welcome to the commentary booth, David. That was a very interesting race. You certainly had a lot of battles out on the circuit. I think you were, for most of the race, the lead driver who started on the primary tyres, but the race really came good for you at the end. Talk us through it from your perspective.
Yeah, pretty much. So now that the league's gone to starting on your quali tire, the strategies were already pretty expansive. Like there's a lot of different things you could try, alternating which tires you start on and go to. But now it's like, do I start on the hard and try to pass people in the pit on that first pit stop interval, or do I start on the soft? So I went for that. I did some practice and I felt pretty good on the hards around this track. So I just went for that for the opening stint, just to try to get those initial passes just safely in the pits, because it's real hard to pass around Brands in a conventional way. So
yeah, it certainly looked that way, and when you started, in the race, I mean, I think you gained 9 spots from where you started. Did you think that third was an option, a podium spot, or were you hoping for more, or are you really pleased with the end result?
I was hoping for top 5. That's kind of been my goal throughout the season, and I've hit that every race except for Indy when I got myself a pit lane exit penalty. So that was my goal. So podium is awesome. When I was running in P2 right before the last pit interval, I was really happy with that. But again with the strategies, and I saw the guys on the alternates going full tanks, full fuels intervals on those. I was pretty surprised at a lot of them pushing that and not losing a bunch of pace. So that was pretty interesting to see. But yeah, I'm super happy with third right now.
Well, I completely, can understand why you're pleased with third. It was a great race by yourself, thoroughly enjoyable. And next week we head to Spa, a really iconic circuit, going to be all about the slipstream. A lot more opportunities to overtake. Are you looking forward to it?
I'm gonna catch flack for this, but I don't care. I'm not a big fan of Spa. I think it's overrated. But in these cars, with the push to pass, the slipstream down the Kemmel straight, and also on the back straight leading up to the bus stop, there's going to be a lot of opportunities to make passes work. The downside is if you're not in that slipstream, you're probably going to get gapped unless you just got out pace on everybody else. So it's going to be a tough one for sure, but always looking forward to it. This series has been really fun to race in so far. Really clean for the most part. Obviously tonight was a little hectic, but tight track, old school track, so it was kind of expected.
I think Dave is just waiting for Detroit. Just going to go into Belle Isle and just show these guys how to run around there, aren't you, Dave?
Belle Isle is one of my favorite tracks. The bumps, you just gotta live with them. Yeah, I'm excited for the whole season. I am gonna miss Nürburgring due to work travel, but otherwise, yeah, it's like the schedule is really good. And these cars are great. They don't get enough love in the officials. So when this series came up, I jumped right on it.
Well, thank you so much, David, for coming to talk to us in the commentary booth. And before we let you go, anybody you'd like to give a shout out to at all?
Oh yeah, for sure. Shout out to everybody down, my teammates at Muradness, the M Squad, Dan, Stu, Dion, Ginger. Everybody over there is awesome. They're always rooting you on, even though I'm the only one in the team running this series. They always get some comments on it, and they're always rooting you on. So it's great to have that. So appreciate it, guys.
Well, thank you very much, David. And once again, congratulations on your 3rd place finish.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week.
See you next week indeed. And well, Mike, what an amazing race we had today. So amazing, in fact, that we didn't have any time to mention our sponsors. The WSRL IndyCar Series is presented by the Sim Racing for Simpletons YouTube channel and WC91 Liveries. And Mike, how do you sum up that race? I mean, it's fairly impossible.
It got straight from the pace lap. It was just absolute, just crazy business going on. But the guy that made the mistake on the pace lap is the guy that won the race. I mean, you cannot, like you said earlier, you cannot write a story regarding that. So a great job. I mean, the guys, once they got into a groove, it was great. But next week is going to be fun. We're going to have to see how these guys get around that big, long track at Spa.
Certainly will. It's going to be an amazing race. Certainly worth tuning in for that. But yeah, I think that is us done from today's racing activities. As we just have a look once again at your race results. Confirmation that Brian Hotham, Joshua Benjamin and David Stevenson were your top 3. And just before we let you go, just a little bit of time to mention our upcoming broadcasts. And well, Tuesday, me and Mike will be back in the commentary booth, and we'll be live from the Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve, and that's the LMP2 and GT3s. And then once again, we'll be back in the Dallara IR19. Dallara, we'll be back in the WSRL IndyCar Series from Spa-Francorchamps, and well, the Spec 5 Mazda Imola racing will be on as well. And also we have the XSLR, the Cross Series Racing League, on Sunday. Do not miss that as well. But from myself, Sebastian Bosher-Williams, from Mike Braun and Dustin Ollis in the commentary booth, thank you so much for joining us today. And we'll be back in 1 week's time when the championship heads to Belgium.